Welcome to today's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Kelly Geiger, General Manager of Wallwork Financial Corporation. Thanks for joining me, Kelly.
Thank you. It's excited to be here and talk to you. It's been a long time since we've got to see each other face to face, so this is as close as we're going to get probably until ELFA comes in October.
Yeah, no, I sit back and I think about when we were at that college World Series game. And it's like events like that where all this stuff that happened, and it's like, God, I wish we'd get back to some sense of normalcy, whatever that may or may not be.
Yeah, still one of my, it's a trip I'll never forget. That was a lot of fun, being at the College World Series.
No, and that's one thing I appreciate about this industry is it affords you the ability to take potential clients like yourself to events like that, because the end of the day, I enjoyed it. It was relatively entertaining being someone who didn't have any skin in the game, but yet
right,
kind of antagonizing the Razorback fans at that point. Hopefully we don't get any.
Yeah.
Whatever, But for Kelly, for the people who might not be familiar with yourself, do you mind just kind of talking about your career to date in equipment finance?
Yeah, so I've been in equipment finance now for about 11 plus years. My background is actually in public accounting. I started my career at a company called Bailey, actually. I was there for about 6-7 years. And when I was there, I focused mostly on auto dealerships, trucking companies, finance companies, and a lot of property and casualty insurance companies as well. And Wallwork Financial and actually WW Wallwork Inc., the entire organization, was one of my customers, my clients that I worked on. So that's how the relationship started. I did all of the owner's personal stuff and did all the different entities, their tax returns, and a relationship with them, and had the opportunity to come on board. And it was a very easy decision for me as they called me. It was the middle of February of 2010, and February in tax season is not a very fun time. So it was a very easy decision.
Now, as long as they didn't make sure you waited until all your tax work was done before they brought you on.
Well, I had to do that. I had to do the right thing. So I actually stayed with the firm, until April 15th, and then I took some time off, and I didn't start here until May of 2010. But it was, so I had to finish it out because there was a lot of work to do. Yeah.
That's good. At least you stuck it through there. So now, as far as like what about Wallwork kind of drew you into that organization?
Well, it's a good question, and it's one that I think about a lot. And then when you go through something like COVID too, you really self-reflect. But back at that time, when you're working in public accounting, you work with so many different companies. I mean, there's, I don't know, thousands of companies in the time that I worked at public accounting. There's always just a handful of companies that you'd be like, well, someday, if I had an opportunity, I'd work there. Wallwork was definitely one of those. And the biggest thing that we have, and I know it's kind of a buzzword, but culture, right? Culture. But you can feel that quickly when you walk into an organization. And the Wallwork organization is a pretty large organization. WW Wallwork Inc. actually started in 1921 is when it started in the auto dealership world. They had a Ford dealership in Moorhead, Minnesota. And it wasn't until 1952 that the finance company came on board. And so the organization has a little over 400 employees, but finance is only about 25. So the beauty of working at Wallwork Financial is you're kind of a little bit independent from the rest of our organization. So we operate independently, separate books and records, separate team. We have our own office space. And it's one of those offices that when you walk in, you're like, okay, this is definitely a place that I can work. So the culture was a huge thing. And then just the opportunity here in the industry we're in, and now it's a 100-year-old company. It was our 100-year anniversary this year. Fourth generation company, so a great story. Just a lot of good things about it.
No, that's fantastic. Congratulations on 100 years. That's pretty remarkable. Yeah. And then from different business lines that you guys are in, obviously you just mentioned some auto stuff there. You just don't mind just kind of talking what else Wallwork plays with?
Yeah, the entire entity has it's called Valley Imports, which is it's an import car dealership where they have Audi, Mitsubishi, Mercedes, Volkswagen, and Porsche. And then outside of that, you have Wallwork Truck Center, which are the different Kenworth dealerships, and there's a couple different trailer stores as well. A bunch of different franchises on the trailer side. But that was really how Wallwork Financial got kickstarted in 1952, was really to facilitate the sales side of the Kenworth dealership. And just over the years, Wallwork Financial has just morphed into a lot more. You know, we're in North Dakota from a retail side of things, which is not a very large market. So in order to expand and grow and to offer our services throughout, we had to go throughout the rest of the country. And that's really, so only about 10 to 15% of our business comes from our own dealerships, and the rest comes from outside of our dealership.
And then your footprint, I'm guessing it's across the nation, but obviously you have that, you know, I guess segmentation there in the Northwest.
Yeah, we're in North Dakota is where the dealerships are. So that would be where we have the largest chunk of our portfolio would be in North Dakota and Minnesota. We are in 47 different states. And then we do have individual lease and finance reps that are scattered in different areas of the country as well. And then they have relationships with, you know, other dealerships, customer direct. And then, you know, in the transportation world, there's still a lot of brokers out there. Yeah. But I would say that 50% of all the business that we do would be still customer direct, still heavy on the relationship side. So you're working with that fleet customer or that owner operator. And those are a lot of fun. Those relationships go back, I mean, years and years and years.
Nope. And I guess we'll just kind of pivot to that particular market that you're in, if that's okay. So obviously going into COVID, you know, transportation, like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? Is this another, you know, 2006 to 2008 are people going to want? And then obviously it was the exact opposite, right? Where demand just kind of blew up. And now from what I'm seeing, it's almost like supply chain disruption where you can't get enough, and used cars or used trucks are so overly inflated. What is your thought on, I guess, where we've come in the last 18 months, Kelly, and then where do you see things going from here?
Yeah, obviously when it happened in March, I think we received our first payment deferral probably March 12th or something like that in 2020. And it was, you know, right away they started coming in, and then you have some big customers calling and customers, and it was a little bit scary because you're like, when's this going to end? But looking, I mean, if we could, back then when that happened, looking to where we are now, I just don't think that anyone would have thought we'd be where we are right now. I mean, the economy has been a lot better than expected. Yes, we'll hit about the supply chain shortages, but outside of that, things have been pumping along pretty good. And it's one of those deals that, because you brought up 2008, 9, and 10, and that was a tough time period. And everybody got through COVID. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people in our industry got through COVID just fine. But it doesn't feel like we were tested the same like we were in 2008, 9, and 10. You know, with all the liquidity that was pumped into the market, those funds definitely had a lot of good consequences, maybe some good and some bad that came out of it. But it really helped. I mean, a big chunk of our customers didn't really have any issues. You know, a lot of them got the PPP funds and all the other things that were out there, but a lot of it was because we were scared a little bit. What's going to happen? Is this going to last 2 years? Is this going to last 3 years? So looking back at that and, you know, kind of the state of mind that we were in at that point and thinking about where we are right now, I think the company, we're extremely proud of the things that we've accomplished. And then obviously that goes to just people in America. We're fighters, right? Yep. So we get to those tough times and we all came together, and it was a trying time, but extremely fortunate to be where we are right now in terms of the COVID stuff. And then when you talk about the supply chain issues, that's definitely one of the biggest things in transportation that we're dealing with. If it's chips, if it's resin, if it's now we just saw an article today on DEF sensors. So you have these DEF sensors that go out in these trucks, and then your truck, you can't run your truck without them. It's all part of the EPA standard. So, and it's taken weeks, if not months, to get these sensors, to get all that stuff fixed. So there's a lot of trucks that are just sitting down right now that can't be operated just because of that sensor. So there's just weird things that come up like that are really big struggles in the supply chain. Not only can you not get equipment, but then if you have equipment that you're running and something like that happens, it's sidelined. So that part has been extremely challenging. And if you look at Kenworth, Volkswagen, Freightliner, I mean, most of them are sold out for new orders through 2022. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
And then as far as that used inventory, you know, how's that market playing out? Like, is there any even, obviously there's demand for it, but is it hard to even, I'm assuming it's probably almost difficult to even meet that demand.
Yeah, there's a lot more demand for it. Historically, we finance probably 75% new and 25% used, and that's definitely going to be different this year because there's not much new equipment out there. And values on the used stuff has been very difficult from a lender side of things, right? How do you finance the correct amount, and make sure that if something happens in a couple of years that you're not completely upside down? Because values right now are up 60% to 65% of where they were a year ago on used equipment. So now you're looking at something with 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 miles on an over-the-road truck, where before you'd maybe stay a little bit clear of something like that, or at least you'd structure it properly. That's becoming the norm in the used truck market right now.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can almost imagine from a residual perspective what that does as you're sitting there trying to deals.
Our credit officer, he's got a lot of challenging decisions to make at times, but it's good. We got a good team. We have the support. We have someone that values every piece of equipment that we put on the books. We've always done that. So it's challenging though, just due to the competition out there. When transportation is good, everyone's in the market. 2008, 9, and 10, I don't know what percent, but a large percent of the finance companies and banks that were financing transportation, they left. And now we've had these 10 years or 11 years of this economic cycle where transportation has been fantastic. And now we have a lot of new players back in the game, and the competition is extremely serious right now. So the structuring and making sure not to fall into those old habits and holding to the credit standards, because we want to make sure that we're here in another 100 years. There's going to be a lot of finance companies that, they go in and out, and I get it, that's part of their business model, but 90% of what we do is transportation, so we want to be here for a long time. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And whatever you do, just make sure you're protecting the fort. So when those banks keep coming in, trying to gather up some market share, you just slowly show them the door and be like, go somewhere else.
Yeah. And the banks too. I mean, we have great relationships with the banks, but they're strong competitors, especially right now with all the liquidity. A lot of local and smaller regional banks that weren't necessarily doing a lot of transportation, due to all the cash that they have, and now they're back into transportation. So it creates a little tightening of the margins out there, but it's always healthy.
I think I remember last time I was financing a car, it was like, oh, Audi Financial will offer you like 1.9. And then like Wells came and it was like 0.9. And I'm kind of like, well, of course I'm going to take the lower rate. Like, come on.
Yeah. And that's the challenge that we have as a finance company too, is you don't want to be a commodity where everyone's just like, well, what's your rate? So that's, you try to differentiate yourself as a company, and the fact that we've been in business, as long as we have. And, the customer service is a huge part of it, where you're talking to someone on the phone. So you have to have all these other factors. And that's why the customer relationship part of our business is extremely important, because you get to sit with that individual and you get to know that person personally on a professional level, and then you can become more of a consultant type role as well. So it's challenging to get, we're in a commodity type business at times, but there's got to be something that differentiates one company from the next. And I think that's what allows companies like us, who are much smaller in scale to some of our larger competitors, to be very relevant in the marketplace.
No, and that's a good point. So of the new deals that you book on an annual basis, like what percentage of those would be from existing customers?
Existing customers? Yeah, I don't know exactly what that percentage would be. That's a really good question. But I know 50% of what we do is customer direct. And, we call them a first-time customer is a 001, then 002, and all the above. So a big chunk of our customer direct would definitely be existing, just not sure on the percentage.
No worries. Sorry to kind of throw that at you. I was just curious.
No, that's fine.
Obviously, that's what I know about your organization, the tenure that you guys have from your employees, the culture that you've created. That's why, like you said, you're not a commodity. People come to you because you're the expert in what you guys do. And, people aren't going to sit there and battle over a couple basis points here and there because they know the service they're going to be getting. Yeah.
It still happens, but we can't be all things to all people. We try our best, and on to the next one.
No, that's fair. So congratulations. I want to say it's been how many months since you've taken over?
Well, January 1st, I took over as a general manager.
Now, obviously, you were in that office beforehand. Any challenges whatsoever in taking over the leadership from Steve in a, I guess, towards the back half of the pandemic?
Yeah. Well, and you know Steve, and you've met Steve, and Steve is he's became a big time mentor for me. So personally and professionally, we've had a great relationship over the 11 years. I still talk to him, quite a bit personally, or maybe have some work questions as well. So the biggest thing is that when you step into a role of where things are clicking, you're like, I don't want to screw this thing up, right? So you're like, so you put that pressure on yourself to make sure that you kind of continue the ball rolling. But there's obviously some things that we wanted to do and pursue, because Steve started, he started in 2007. Then right when he started, 8, 9, and 10 hit. So he walked in like, wow. And then the company has changed and grown so much. We've changed so many things, added processes, people, procedures, technology, just so many different things we've done in the last 10, 11 years that fortunately I had a big part. It was fortunate for me to be part of all that. And from the day that I started, he always included me, what was going on with the company. And so I would say for the last, 4 or 5 years, we've been working hand in hand pretty close, with the end goal being where I'm at today, and him retiring at a very young age so he can spend some time with his family. So for me, one of the biggest challenges was probably just all the pressure that I put on myself to make sure that, I'm stepping into something that's clicking along pretty good. So I was very happy that when COVID hit, he was still here, because that probably would have been a little bit overwhelming being that my first year, and then bam, COVID comes. So, but it's been fantastic. It's a great organization, and there's definitely challenges we have with you always have the pressure to grow, trying to find really good talented people right now that's going to be that they're going to represent your company how you want them to represent your company, especially when they're sitting in any other state, if it's Utah, Nevada, or Texas, and you're not sitting there day to day with them. You want to make sure that they fit with the culture that you have, they represent the company well, because the biggest thing we would not want is you go into a new territory and you have someone that does some damage to your reputation. So that's always a challenge, is finding really good high quality lease and finance reps in other parts of the country where you're not able to necessarily have a pulse on it as much. But outside of that, I mean, our credit, we're super strong, and the administrative side, we're strong. Sales, we're extremely strong. We got great people, and like you mentioned earlier, we have a lot of tenure in the company. So a lot of very seasoned individuals that do a really good job out there. So we're very fortunate from that side of things. And now it's just trying to, spend that time focusing on the big things, on what's going to move us to the next step, but doing it the right way.
No, that's fantastic. And yeah, I mean, the fact that I could imagine if they just kind of launched you into that role, and then it's like, okay, we need to remove everyone remote. It's like, wait, what? What's going on?
Yeah. It would have been challenging, but what was fun too is when we were ready to bring everyone back, everyone was so happy to come back. We only had one individual that stayed working from home, and that's because he lives on a lake about an hour and 15 minutes from here. So exactly. Yeah, you can't blame him for that. But everyone else was just so excited to come back, and I think that had a lot of testament. It makes you feel pretty good too about the place that, the culture that we have here.
No, absolutely. And then, and I heard you had your first trip last week since the pandemic happened. Let's talk about that. I think our planes might have crossed one another when I was in Idaho. So what was that like? I mean, because what was like 15 months, 16 months?
Yeah, it's been a long time. I've done some road trips in the car, but nothing in an airplane. That was the first time. And flying out of Fargo isn't always the easiest. You always have to take a couple connectors. So I ended up going out to Idaho, which was Fargo to Minneapolis, Minneapolis to Spokane, and then about a 45-minute car ride to Idaho. And the flights were great. It's just a little bit different, different seeing everyone in the airplane wearing masks. But it was pretty smooth. The services were the same, and we did have a little bit of a snafu on the flight from Minneapolis to Spokane, where an individual did not want to wear their mask, so they kicked that person off. But outside of the 45-minute delay, everything was good, and it was actually fun to get in a plane again, sit back and relax, and put the headphones on and read a book, and so it was good.
No, and then so I had my first let me see, my first COVID trip, I guess we'll call it, in October of last year. And that was depressing, besides the whole mask on an airplane. But at that time, the majority of the country was still shut down. So it's like when you walked in
Yeah.
the hotel, the bars closed, like there's nothing. They don't even serve food. So it was kind of really like, okay, why am I traveling again? There's nothing like exciting. You sit in a boardroom next to somebody, they're all masked up, and it's like, ah. And now at least it's
Yeah.
opening up a little bit more. Hopefully we stay on that trajectory. But it seems like at a trade show, I haven't been to a trade show yet. How was that?
Oh, yeah. It was actually pretty good. It was an Idaho Trucking Association is what we were at. And generally there's 125 people maybe. I'm not exactly sure what the count was, but you could tell everyone was really excited to be out and about. They practice social distancing. You have the the sanitizers everywhere, but there's still some handshaking going on, and some folks had masks if that's what made them comfortable, which is fine, but the majority did not, and the conversation was good, and spent some time on a golf course, and they didn't have any booths set up, so they didn't have any type of vendor booth, so they restricted that a little bit. But it was really good to get out, see everyone, talk face to face, talk shop, and that year and a half off, I don't know if that was necessarily a bad thing because it recharged everyone's batteries, at least it did mine, in order to be excited to go out and do some trips again.
Well, and I'm sure your customers appreciate the face-to-face time that you get to spend with them now and coming out of this. See, that's where I see one of the big differentiators and where you guys will just keep going up is some of these organizations who are just in it for the business aren't going to invest in the people side of it like you guys will. And
Yeah.
you guys will be able to capitalize on it, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I ask everyone who comes on here if they don't mind sharing a little fun fact about themselves. So sorry to kind of put you on the spot there. Just remember this is recorded, so it will be online.
Right. Yeah, and I think the most surprising thing that when I tell people about me is that, I went to school right away out of high school, and I went to school for accounting. I knew that's what I wanted to do, but then I took about a 3.5-year hiatus, and I worked construction, and I was a backhoe operator. Which
Okay.
which I really loved the work, but I didn't really like the lifestyle that much. It's a hard lifestyle. There's a lot of traveling, a lot of durations, a lot of hotel rooms, but it was really fun. So yeah, I used to operate a backhoe.
So are you that guy at the construction expo that jumps in one of those big old machines that can take the basketball and dump it in the bucket?
I wouldn't have those types of technical skills, but I actually was able to get in a backhoe at the beginning of the summertime because we have this old dilapidated garage that was at our lake place, and my neighbor had a backhoe. So I got to jump in there and mess around with that and rip that garage down, which was a lot of fun. So it still didn't make me want to go back to working, in the fields, but it was still a lot of fun.
That's where you just put out there online, willing to destroy stuff with a backhoe. That's all I want. Like none of the other stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Kelly. So one final question here. At the end of the day, why do business with Wallwork?
And that's, we touched about it a little bit, and it's one of those things, not to get too deep, but it's kind of an emotional topic for me because personally and professionally, this company has changed my life substantially. And I know it has for a lot of the folks that work here too. The family that owns this business, like I said, it's now in the 4th generation. It was started by William W. Wallwork in 1921. His son took it over, William Wallwork, Jr., and then Junior's son, William Wallwork III, took it over, who is still involved in the business today. And now he's got a nephew and a daughter that are in the company as well. So that part of the company is unbelievable to know that they have long-term plans of keeping this company around too, and being able to work with a private business, especially, in the state of North Dakota like it is. Private businesses, and most, states in this country too, they run the economy. So working here has just been fantastic. And then also just, I feel that we do a really good job with what we do. We talked about the commodity type things, and we try to do our best to make sure that we're not a commodity. And we tried to lead not with talking about who we are, but, you know, what problems that our customers are trying to solve and see if we can solve. We can't fix everything, but we can help a lot of people out, and that's where we like to spend that time where it's a win-win for both sides. You know, and that would be, you know, just a couple of the many things of why Wallwork is an important organization to me and also a great one to work with.
Nope, and just from working with you in the past and what I know what your capabilities are, I'm excited for where things are going to be going from here.
Yeah, we're excited too. We have such a great team right now, and some of the you know, some of the individuals that have been here for 20, 30 plus years that are still around helping on the business development and relationship side. There's just, you know, one thing that we always strive for is constant improvement. Sometimes you can drive yourself nuts trying to constantly improve, but we have a good team of people that have the same mindset. So I'm excited about, you know, the next 15, 20, 50, hopefully 100 more years. I'm not going to be here in 100 years, but hopefully the organization's still around in 100 years. That'd be pretty cool.
Nope, absolutely, Kelly. And once again, I appreciate your time today and look forward to seeing you. What we got, about 6 weeks, 7 weeks until San Antonio. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Looking forward to that conference. I'll see you out in the golf course even.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun, Jesse. Look forward to it.
All right, Kelly. Thanks again for your time, sir. Take care.
All right. Take care.